Hi, thank you for joining me, Kevin Lentz, pastor of Trinity, for our Thursday devotion. I've been working through the book of 2 Corinthians for a few months now, so we're going to continue that, and it's going to be on chapter 11 today. A little bit longer than some of the other chapters we've been looking at in this book. It's 33 verses, and the whole chapter is more or less Paul kind of defending himself against accusers. He's saying in places like, well, they think they're so great because, what are they, Israelite? So am I. What are they, Jewish? So am I. What are they, children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Well, so am I. And he keeps saying that no matter what people might think of themselves, we're all the people of God. We get our value and our worth from knowing who Christ is, who God is, what Jesus has done for us. So chapters 11 and 12, we'll look at 12 next week, deal with that Paul is forced into foolish boasting. Again, he says, I'm being a fool here. He said, I can't believe I'm saying this even at one point in the chapter, because he's forced to do it to defend himself rather than talk about who God is, who Christ is, by these super apostles, he calls them, these people who just were quite arrogant in their faith, thinking they were better than other believers, which of course is never the case. I mean, all of us need God, need Christ, are sinful, need his forgiveness, his hope, the cross, the resurrection. It's all about God, not about who we think we are. So Paul does, like he says, some foolish boasting to try and get across the point that nobody's really better than anybody. Let's just all be people of God. I want to look specifically at verse 3 of 2 Corinthians chapter 11, where it says, as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. Now, he writes that to the people at Corinth because they were faithful, but they also had a habit of falling away from the faith. And so he's saying to them that they know the story of Adam and Eve, especially Eve being led away by the serpent, that as she was led away by the serpent, you guys are falling into the same trick. I think that verse is dateless and applies as much to us as any other time, because we too can be led away by our own sinfulness, our own attraction or attention to worldliness, things that might turn their back on God. So I think it's true that we can also be said of us, as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, our minds may somehow be led astray from our sincere and pure devotion to Christ. Because again, we don't claim perfection, we don't claim to be perfectly strong believers, Christians, overcoming all temptations and sin. Now, we're weak, we give in. So as Eve succumbed to the serpent's wily ways, sometimes the ways of this world attract us as well. I want to also look at verse 30, again of chapter 11. Paul writes, if I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness, which makes no sense, but at the same time makes perfect sense. He's saying, if I'm going to be arrogant, boastful, if I'm going to brag, what I'm going to really fill people's ears with is that I'm weak. I am not strong. I need God. I need help. If I'm going to do a lot of talking about myself, as you are doing a lot of talking about yourself, I'm going to say a lot about myself. I'm imperfect. I'm not great. I fall short. So he's saying there, again, if I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness, saying, because I can list them time after time after time that get me to fall into sin. And again, great missionary, admitted to weakness. Again, wonderful believers as we are, we praise God for our faith. There are times we have to admit we are weak as well. Maybe we should boast about it too, to remind ourselves that we are not this perfect person, but we need God. We need Christ. It's not a want, it's a need, and we give thanks for that. So that's chapter 11. We'll look at chapter 12 next week, and I pray God bless your weekend. And please join us for worship if you're around. God bless. Bye-bye.